Welcome everyone, explorers of the mind, to the deep dive. And today it's a very special edition, the Leor Super Fun Learning Hour. We are just really thrilled to have you with us as we continue our seminar series. This is, believe it or not, our fourth episode already, digging into the Oedipal triangle. Such a profound concept, often misunderstood.
It really is.
Today we're going, well, beyond the surface. We're heading out on a pretty fascinating journey, actually, to uncover one of the most profound, maybe missing links in how we develop psychologically. And this concept, I think once you grasp it, it illuminates so much, like why some minds are just incredibly flexible, able to handle complexity, hold different truths, while others can get really rigidly stuck black and white thinking.
Right.
So we're diving into Ronald Britton's groundbreaking paper, The Missing Link. And it offers a truly transformative perspective.
It absolutely does.
Britton really challenges our sort of traditional ideas. He reframes the whole Oedipal situation. It's not just a developmental stage, not just a family drama.
No, much more.
But a critical mental space, like an internal architecture within our minds. This is where we develop our fundamental capacity to connect, to think, and, well, to truly understand the world around us. And maybe more importantly, the world within us.
Exactly.
So our mission for this deep dive is to really unpack Britton's main points, see how he views this internal space as just essential for our mental well-being, our ability to relate, and you'll see, I think, how the failure to develop this linking capacity, well, it can explain so much. Stuff like splitting, major difficulties in sustaining relationships. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, it's truly a cornerstone paper, and a brilliant choice for this series, actually. Britton's work is incredibly rich. Complex. And what makes it so remarkable, I think, is how elegantly he manages to synthesize and extend and sometimes even gently challenge these foundational ideas from giants like Freud, Klein, beyond.
Right, the big names.
He takes these classic concepts and gives them this fresh, really profound new life. He shows us that this third position we talk about, it isn't just about having another person there in the dynamic.
It's more internal.
It's about developing a crucial psychological function within our own minds. And this internal function, that's the very bedrock for genuine insight, for the capacity for self-reflection.
That's a really powerful way to frame it. So let's start right there then. Because for many listeners, I imagine when they hear Oedipal, they immediately picture that very specific, maybe quite literal family dynamic. Child, mother, father.
The classic triangle, yeah.
But Britton, if I'm getting this right, he really transforms that simplistic view, doesn't he? How does he actually reframe how we should understand what the Oedipal situation really is?
He absolutely does. Britton takes us way beyond that literal interpretation. He invites us to see it not as just some family drama we pass through.
Like a phase.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But as something much more fundamental. He suggests the Oedipal situation is, at its core, a fundamental organizing principle for our subjective experience itself. And even more importantly, he conceptualizes it as an internal triangular space within the mind. Imagine your internal world suddenly gaining a third perspective.
Like stepping outside the immediate back and forth.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Almost like watching a conversation from the outside. Seeing not just the two people talking, but the relationship itself.
Yeah.
This internal third position. That's where objectivity, comparison, a more robust grasp of reality really take root. It becomes this foundational mental structure. It lets us process experiences, conflicts, relationships in a much more sophisticated, nuanced way.
And this idea of internalization, that sounds key.
Oh, it's absolutely key for Britton. It's not just about passively experiencing things happening outside. It's about how the individual actively takes in and makes these Oedipal dynamics a real integral part of their internal world. This move from purely dyadic, two-person relationships where we might see the world as just me and you or me and the world.
Right, very direct.
To this triangular three-person space.
Yeah.
That, for Britton, is a crucial developmental leap. This shift isn't just about adding a third person. It's about the capacity it creates inside the mind. It allows for developing a sense of objectivity, the ability to compare, to hold a third viewpoint, and ultimately a more robust, more flexible grasp of reality.
Can you give an example of how that works?
Sure. So think about it like this. From his work, the very presence of a third party, whether it's a real person or, more profoundly, an internalized representation in the mind, it enables the child, and later the adult, to see the primary object, let's say the mother, not just as an extension of themselves, there for their needs.
Right, not just my mom.
Exactly. But as an independent entity, this mother exists outside the child's complete control or perception. And crucially, she has her own relationships, her own world, separate from the child.
That sounds like a big realization.
It's massive, this perception of the other as separate, having their own agency. It's absolutely vital for developing a stable sense of reality, where the self is distinct from others, and others have their own lives. In Britton, he's building on Freud's original insights, of course, the Oedipus complex back in 1897, Freud's focus on rivalry and sexuality.
Yeah.
But he also greatly expands on Klein's early ideas, like her work on inhibitions from around 1920, which hinted at this complex inner world. And then he integrates Bayon's later, really revolutionary work on thought and processing emotions.
So he's weaving them together.
Exactly. He's not just
Yeah.
repeating them, he's creating this rich new tapestry from those threads.
Okay, so if I'm following,
Yeah.
it's less about the literal family setup and much, much more about an internal architecture, a structure that develops our capacity for complexity, for seeing beyond just two poles.
You got it.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. Like, our minds gain this crucial processing unit. Which brings us back to the title, The Missing Link. So if this internal third position, this space, is so vital, what happens when it's, well, missing? What is this link exactly? And how tied is it to our basic ability to think coherently?
Precisely. The missing link, as Britton sees it, is the capacity to form and maintain internal links. And these aren't just any old connections. They're the fundamental links between different thoughts, feelings, perceptions, aspects of ourselves. But crucially, also, the links between the self and our internal representations of others, how we hold images, feelings, ideas about people inside us.
Okay.
It's this very capacity, he argues, that's fundamental for developing thought itself. Without it, we really struggle to hold and compare different ideas without them just splitting apart, disintegrating, or becoming overwhelming.
So it allows for mental containment.
Exactly. Mental containment. Think about it. Internalizing this third object within that triangular mental space that gives us the capacity for insight, for reflection. It's what lets us hold conflicting ideas, conflicting emotions simultaneously without feeling like we're falling apart, without feeling fragmented.
Like holding ambiguity.
Yes. Holding ambiguity. We can look at a situation from multiple angles. Acknowledge complexity instead of just reducing it to black and white, good or bad, all or nothing. This internal third gives us a vantage point, a mental space where we can observe our own internal conflicts, the relationships between our different internal parts.
That's powerful.
And Britton actually offers this really fascinating reinterpretation of Freud's primal scene concept. The idea of witnessing parents having sex.
Right, that classic idea.
He argues it's not just about a physically witnessed event, although that can obviously be impactful. More fundamentally, it's about the internal representation of the parents' relationship.
The idea of their relationship.
Yes, a mental image of a dynamic between two others, which then becomes a crucial template for the child's own internal world and, importantly, for developing their linking capacity. It means seeing the parents not just in relation to the child, but in relation to each other as an independent unit. So if we connect this to the bigger picture, this active psychological work, forming these internal links, that's what truly enables mental flexibility, emotional resilience, and that deep, nuanced understanding of ourselves and others.
The ability to pause, reflect, make sense.
Precisely.
Okay, that's a profound connection, shifting the primal scene like that. And it brings us to a really crucial point, one that I think illuminates so many struggles we see both in individual lives and, frankly, in broader society. What are the concrete consequences when this linking capacity fails to develop properly? Or maybe it develops but then breaks down somehow. What does that look like in the real world?
Yeah, when this crucial linking capacity, this internal triangular space, doesn't develop or it breaks down, the consequences are indeed profound. It leads to fragmentation. It makes it incredibly difficult to integrate experiences. And there's this tendency to revert back to more primitive, less adaptive defense mechanisms.
Okay.
When the mind just can't hold the complexity of a third position, it often splits things, just chops them into simple opposing parts, good or bad.
Can you give examples of those defenses?
Sure. So you see the emergence of defenses like splitting, where something or someone is either all fantastic or all terrible. No middle ground allowed.
Like flipping from idealizing someone to devaluing them.
Exactly that. Think of a child declaring their best friend as suddenly their worst enemy over something small. Or an adult seeing a colleague as either a total genius or completely incompetent, no room for just being human.
Yeah.
Then there's projection. We take our own uncomfortable feelings or thoughts and sort of cast them onto others. You're the one who's angry. When actually it's us simmering inside. unable to tolerate our own rage. And projective identification, which is really insidious. It's more than just projection. Here, we might not just project our disowned parts into someone else.
Right.
We might subtly induce that other person to actually feel or act out what we've projected onto them. It creates this tangled, often really confusing dance of emotions and behaviors.
Oh, so these aren't just passive avoidance tactics.
Not in Britton's view. He sees them as actively aimed at destroying internal links, destroying the very capacity for insight itself. They work to dismantle that internal triangular space, to simplify a complex reality into a more manageable, maybe, but definitely distorted two-person world.
So it's an attack on complexity itself.
It really is.
Yeah.
And Britton connects this directly to Bian's concept of attacks on links. Bian observed patients who seem to actively undermine their own ability to think, to connect dots, to make sense of things.
So it's not just that the link is missing, it's being actively sabotaged.
Actively sabotaged, yes. The result is a mind that struggles to find meaning, to integrate different experiences into a coherent story, and crucially, struggles to sustain complex relationships over time. And you can imagine the impact, right? The inability to tolerate this internal third position, or the complexity it represents. It translates directly into major challenges in external relationships. How so? Well, people might be seen as either entirely good or entirely bad. Situations are either completely right or completely wrong. It leads to this polarized black and white view of the world. Compromise, nuance, impossible. It's a world without and, really only or.
That sounds exhausting and very limiting.
Extremely. And this raises an important and frankly quite stark question about severe pathology. Britton actually goes so far as to link the radical failure of this Oedipal triangulation to schizophrenic thought.
Really? Schizophrenia?
Yeah, where the ability to distinguish between self and other, between reality and fantasy, is profoundly compromised. He sees this as a radical, devastating attack on internal links, where the very fabric of mental connection is just torn apart.
Wow.
It's also deeply connected to Bian's container-contained model. That triangular space essentially functions as an internal container for difficult emotions, difficult experiences. It allows them to be held, processed, understood, rather than just evacuated or split off.
So if the container isn't there,
If you can't establish that internal container, there's an inability to process distress, to manage difficult feelings, and ultimately to maintain complex, nuanced relationships. It leads to emotional dysregulation, mental disorganization.
the connection to schizophrenic thought is particularly striking. It really hammers home how fundamental this linking capacity is. But it also makes me wonder, are there times when someone might, perhaps unconsciously, choose to break these links? Maybe to avoid a painful truth, even if it leads to fragmentation.
That's an excellent point. The choice to break links, even if unconscious.
It feels like a very adult thing sometimes.
Absolutely. Often the ego will defend itself against unbearable truths by attacking the very capacity to perceive them. Which brings us to this, so what? What does this all mean for us, beyond specific developmental stages or the clinic? How does this idea of linking capacity resonate in our adult lives day to day?
Yeah. What's the takeaway for the listener today?
Well, so it is enormous, actually. In therapy, for instance, the goal when dealing with these issues isn't just about symptom relief. It's often about helping the patient establish or maybe reestablish a stable triangular space within their mind. This allows them to kind of step back, observe, reflect on, and process experiences that were previously split off or just couldn't be integrated. The analyst, in that context, often functions as an analytic third, offering a non-judgmental space for the patient to explore these internal dynamics without fear of falling apart, helping them build those missing links.
Okay, that makes sense therapeutically.
But these principles, triangular space, linking capacity, they are absolutely not confined to the Oedipal phase or the therapy room. They are fundamental to all complex human relationships.
All of them.
I'd argue yes. To effective communication, to healthy mental functioning throughout life. Think about how we navigate disagreements with friends, family, colleagues. The ability to hold multiple perspectives, to understand the third position, which could be a compromise, an objective fact, maybe the perspective of another person involved, that's essential for true resolution, not just winning.
Like in a workplace conflict.
Exactly. An effective mediator often acts as that third, helping the warring parties see beyond their dyadic struggle to maybe a shared goal or the larger organizational context. Without that capacity, you just get endless stalemates.
That resonates.
And then on a societal level,
Yeah, boy.
The ability to tolerate and integrate different viewpoints is crucial for healthy social interaction, for avoiding extreme polarization.
You see that breaking down a lot.
You really do.
Yeah.
Consider the online debates we see constantly. The inability for opposing sides to acknowledge any third position, any common ground, any shared humanity, any objective facts sometimes.
It's stark.
It isn't just a political failing. You could see it as a societal manifestation of this attack on links. It's as if the very idea of complexity is being actively rejected, pushed away in favor of a simplistic us versus them story.
Yeah.
When we lose sight of that third position, whether it's a shared principle, the common good, or even just acknowledging the validity of someone else's experience, we just descend into these dyadic struggles, where one side sees the other as totally wrong, maybe even evil.
Destroying dialogue.
Completely destroys any possibility of dialogue or mutual understanding. Britton's work really reminds us how easily we can fall into that trap, how seductive it is to simplify a complex world. And it connects so vividly to John Steiner's concept of the blind eye from 1985. This willful refusal to see or acknowledge reality, often done to maintain those primitive defenses we talked about.
Right, splitting and projection.
Exactly. To avoid the discomfort of complexity, Britton would likely view that as a deliberate form of attack on links, a rejection of the triangular space itself, a refusal to think about what's inconvenient or painful.
It's incredible how a psychoanalytic concept from decades ago feels so relevant, so descriptive of challenges we face right now, personally and globally.
Isn't it?
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How many of our daily frustrations, how much of the polarization we see might stem from a subtle version of this inability to hold complexity, to embrace that third position. So, okay, to bring it all together, Britton's profound insight truly reframes the Oedipal situation. It's not just a stage, it's a crucial internal mental space where we develop our capacity to link our thoughts and feelings, to think in complex ways, and to relate to ourselves and others in nuanced, integrated ways.
That's it perfectly.
This missing link truly is vital for mental flexibility, for resilience throughout our entire lives.
Absolutely. So maybe I can leave you, the listener, with this provocative thought. Consider how often, maybe in your own life or even just watching public discourse, how often you encounter situations where there seems to be an active resistance to holding multiple perspectives, a resistance to connecting different ideas or to truly seeing the third position in a situation. Perhaps it's in a family argument, a meeting at work, maybe even just your own internal struggle with a tough decision. How might recognizing this tendency, this attack on links, empower you? Empower you to maybe pause, to look for that missing connection. And in doing that, foster deeper understanding and more robust relationships, both internally within your own thoughts and externally with the people and the world around you.
That's a wonderful and, empowering thought to ponder. Thank you so much for guiding us through that.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Ronald Britton's The Missing Link. We really encourage you to continue exploring these complex but incredibly enriching ideas, and maybe look for those missing links in your own experiences. We'll see you next time on the LEOR Super Fun Learning Hour.